People who met their partners after 30. How did it happen? Do you wish you had met earlier? Yes, I wish we'd met earlier, by about 5 years. As we lurch towards the end of our lives, I would love another second, minute, hour, or day with the best person on the planet. We met the old-fashioned way, in a restaurant through a mutual friend. I had to work out of town for a couple of months after meeting, but on returning we quickly moved into together and married in 1990. So almost 35 years ago. We didn't have cell phones in 1986, much less the internet. Fax machines were a big thing. Different world. Different times. Both of us were married 10 to 15 years previously. It honestly took the growth of our previous relationships to be able to have the meaningful relationship that we have now. Funny how your life being in shambles turns into the best thing you ever could have imagined, and having a partner that is your true partner. New neighbor moved into the second floor studio and was chatting with me from his balcony while I worked on our art project in the yard. Thought nothing of it till some house guests insisted I come up and meet their friend. Small world. Weeks later he told me he was flirting with me, but I was oblivious. As usual, we had 20 wonderful years together till he died suddenly, and yes, I do wish we had met earlier, cause then we would have had more time together. Wow. Thank you all for the awards. It's the first time. For those who wanted to know, he died of massive heart attack at 64. My CPR didn't help and either did the EMTs. It was one of the hardest things I ever went through, but I would go through it again for those 20 years. I met my wife in junior high school. We were friends in a group of friends. Never dated. Lost contact after high school. 25 years later we saw each other on social media, reacquainted as friends, then started dating, and 8 years later we married. Still happily married after 9 years. We were both different people when we were younger and agree that it wouldn't have worked out between us if we got together when we were young. Met 8 years ago, had an old car meet in Nevada. Spent a little time together, a bunch of the older ladies shoving us together whenever they could, hence I avoided him the rest of the trip. He lived in Texas. I lived in California. A year later he called to ask me a question and 3 hours later we got off the phone. Same thing the next day. Same thing the next day. I invited him to come out and visit because we were having an event at my house. To my utter shock he came. About a year and a half later we were married 5 days before my 40th birthday. 15 months ago, I gave birth to our first, and what will be our only daughter 1 week after my 43rd birthday. Yes, I wished I met him sooner sometimes, but in hindsight the timing was perfect and meant to be, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Edit. Thank you all for the wonderful responses. What a lovely thing to wake up to, and thanks for the awards. We love if our story has helped anyone not feel discouraged. As somebody who just turned 30, I'd like to think it's not nearly as weird as Reddit thinks to meet somebody so old. Met when he was 52, and I was 43. Would never trade a minute. I bless the broken path that led us to be together. We met on the Coachella message boards. I was 34, and he was 30. He was looking for a ride to Coachella. I had tickets, but no one to go with. We met once for about an hour, before making the 14-hour drive together. Hung out together the whole weekend, discovered we had similar tastes in music, and enjoyed similar things. We didn't actually get together until about 3 months later, when we met up to go to another music festival together. Music festivals have been a regular part of our 10 years together. Hopefully will be again soon. Stupid COVID. I don't think it would have worked if we had met earlier, although I wish we had. It took me a while to figure out how to be in a healthy relationship, and I'm glad I met him at my right time. I met my wife in a bar when I was with my brother and a friend of his. I thought my brother's friend was a dick. My future wife approached us and proceeded to tell this dick what a dick he was. Turns out they worked together. I was immediately attracted to the way she spoke and her judgment of people. After she walked away, I asked Dick what her name was. True to form, he would not give me her name. My future wife was with a group of 6 women. I nervously approached and asked for her name. I was 30. We've been together ever since. Edit to answer the rest. I don't think meeting earlier would have helped. I needed that time to grow up and become who I was. Previous relationships had been longish term but for whatever reason didn't work. This courtship and resulting lifelong relationship only worked because we had had those experiences. P.S. I'm fascinated by sentences that have the same work beside each other. Egg had. They are hard to create and consider, but sometimes they just materialize. Wish we had met earlier. Hell no. We were both in our early 30s, and it was perfect, because we were mature enough to know what we wanted, and were both ready to settle down. In my 20s I was immature, wild and not marriage material. Met at work. He was an acquaintance 4 years prior, but the time wasn't right then. I'd say it worked the way it was supposed to for us. Met on the train. I had the day off, and was just riding random trains, personal joy, and she was going to work to fill in for someone. We wouldn't have met under any other circumstances. She approached me, gave me her card, and asked me out for coffee. Happily married for 7 years. Do I wish we met earlier? No, early to mid-20s me was only concerned about clubbing and hanging out with friends. I would have probably blown her off. We both met at the right time in life. Edit, grammar. Hubby and I met playing Quake 2nd online aged 35. We were aware of each other for a good 2 years prior, and played daily together. I thought he was a 16 years old boy and he also thought I was male. We only typed to each other, so no voice, and I had a silly nickname. People didn't share too much personal stuff back then. I started going to LANs to play Q2. I mentioned this in a game. He asked if my dad played. If my dad took me to the LANs, and off went the conversation from there. Turns out we were the same age and both had become single. 21 years together, 7 years married on Valentine's Day. Sent her a message on OkCupid, but then she set her account to inactive without seeing my message. 2 years later, she reactivated her account, looked at her old messages, saw mine at the top of the queue, and the rest is history. We met through Craigslist. I was lonely looking for someone to see movies with. She was looking for more. But after a few weeks of chatting we met up, and OMG the sparks, and chemistry. Our first date lasted 9 hours long. Here we are, still madly in love, 11 years later and 2 kids, 4 states, 4 apartments, 2 houses and our 10-year anniversary in September. Edit, fixed some typos. This post is an ad. The weekend before Valentine's Day, all the top level comments are about online dating and all have years of activity, no activity, and suddenly today, which means they were bought and sold accounts. Also, 30 is the median age for online dating. I met my partner 3 years ago through mutual friends. After 2 failed marriages I swore I would stay single forever. We moved in together 2 years ago, and it's been great. I'm 66, he is 55. We are incredibly happy. I don't think I wish I would have met him earlier. People are different when they are seniors compared to when we were younger, different hobbies, dreams, etc. I met my girlfriend through Reddit actually, and because of Animal Crossing. We are both 32, and she messaged me last year because she saw this post I made where I gave all my villagers Groucho Marx glasses for a picture, and wanted to know where I got them. I offered to invite her to my island, so she could catalog them, but we kept having bad timing. However, this allowed us to talk and get to know each other better, and soon we evolved to texting, and then calling, and then eventually visiting each other. She lives 4 hours away from me, so it's a bit of a long distance relationship right now, but I don't think I would have met her had it not been for Animal Crossing. I don't regret meeting her so late, because I haven't loved anyone quite like I have her. I feel so fortunate to have her in my life, and although we met later than most people, it was worth the wait. So I probably should get reading glasses, because I read parents in the title, rather than partners, and was like, WTF. Now that I read it, probably, these stories are really cute. I met my partner when I was 32. We were each in the same music scene, so I'd get to see her out. I wasn't ready for a good relationship before that, so I was happy to meet her then. Last September was a 17-year anniversary. I'm glad I didn't settle and waited until I found someone that I'm really happy with. We met through friends and socializing. A mutual friend's birthday get together, to be exact. Fuck no, I don't wish we had met sooner. If you're doing life right, you'll wince at who you were several years ago. So glad she didn't meet me when I was a bigger idiot than I'm now, lol. I met my wife when I was 31. She was 24. I was a complete moron in my 20s. Acted like a teenager who was even dumber than when he was a teenager. Perfect timing for me, and she helped me seriously get my shit together. Married 20 years in May, 2 teen kids. Awesome life right now. We met at the water fountain of a gym. I had never met a woman at a gym before. We met in an AOL chat room for divorced people. We've been married 23 years. I was 35. He was 34. I'll tell you, when I meet her, she's out there looking for me right now. I was single and sad after being cheated on by my then partner, so one of my friends suggested I try out Tinder as a distraction. I had always thought Tinder was just hookups and kind of cringy. He was the second date I went on. Best guy I've ever met.